Progressive presents Get Pumped. Inspiration to help you do insurance stuff.
Okay, time out. You're gonna let your budget be the boss of you? Take control with Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Tell us what you want to pay for car insurance, and we'll help you find options that fit your budget. Here's some music to get you pumped. Da-dong, 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 dang, dang. I hear your budget laughing at you. Oh, wait, that's just those kids laughing at me. Ignore them! Da-dong, da-dong,
Progressive
da-dong.
Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Aquarium Radio at aquariumradio.com. And I am your host, Janet Carolessa, with Karen Christine Patrick and Reverend John Polk. And our guest today is Robert John West, who is an experiencer, author, researcher, frequent or up-and-coming blog talk and other radio show guest. And we may get his two cousins, Adam and Richard Marlin. Hopefully they're going to join us later in the show. And we're going to talk about Rob's experiences as an experiencer. Let me give you a little bit of his background. Robert was born March 7th, 1967 in West Allas, Wisconsin. And he had his first remembered paranormal experience on a ship at age 10. And his job history, he was a tile setter and in construction for 14 years, and then a machinist on a production lathe, then heavy equipment for 3 years. And he got a CDL and owned his own business in trucking and transportation 8 years. He took retirement at age 48. Wow. And he now writes books and is a radio show guest speaker in paranormal research. And John is my co-host, one of my co-hosts today. John, could you say something about the video that Rob sent us? And you got a chance to watch it all, and I didn't get a chance.
I did. Robert John West created this incredible video where his mother is actually interviewing him, and it only tells part of the story going back to 2011. But it's incredible, and he goes into detail about all of his experiences, and he was able to do something that a lot of people are not able to do by capturing video footage and still photography of the UFOs, the cloaking mechanisms as far as clouds cloaking UFOs, an actual extraterrestrial on the deck of his home. Even the cops knew what was happening to him. I mean, you have to watch this video. It's masterful. And, it's about as close to proof as you're going to get of extraterrestrials and UFOs visiting our planet.
Awesome. I've got to definitely carve out an hour of my time and watch that. And Karen Christine Patrick, you're here with us today. What would you like to say before we bring on our very special guest?
Well, happy Freaky Friday, everybody. I love Experiencer Night because this is where we get to be with our clan, Those of us who've gone through things and checking our notes of what we share in common and learning something new. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's awesome. And, I got to click him on. Hold on. I had him. Here we go. Here is our special guest, Robert John West. I'm going to call you Rob, if I remember Rob. And where do we begin? I'd like you to kind of go into your little flow of consciousness for about 5 to 10 minutes and then pause, take a breather, and allow our panel here to ask you some questions. And we're going to stay focused on you and your experiences for about the first hour. Then we'll take a break at the top of the hour and come back and We might have more questions for you alone, or we might go kind of round robin, because I'm sure you're going to trigger us all into our own experiences and memories. And so, Rob, welcome to Experiencers Network, and tell our listeners your story and what you want them to know.
I don't know where to start.
In the beginning, once upon a time. Those are good ways to start.
All I'd like to say is, I'll start here. I was just trying to be a normal guy growing up. I remembered something that happened when I was 10. But just going through life and trying to figure things out, and just seeing the god awful things that we see almost every day. And things just slowly changing, and our country, our government, or something, the world just kind of disintegrating. And then I started having.
What did you see at 10? What did you see at 10? What did you see? You said something happened at 10. What happened?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up.
You said that something happened when you were 10 years old. What happened?
Oh, well, I remember waking up on a ship. I was laying on a table, and I was in there by myself. And when I woke up, I sat up on this bed, I guess. And I looked. The room was dimly lit. I looked to my right, and then swung my head to the left because I could see everything. And it was just odd, and the room was it was round, and it was probably about 30 feet on one side and 30 feet on the other. And when I looked to the right, and this was really odd, and I turned my head to look straight ahead, and there were three what looked like females in front of me at a counter. I don't know what they were doing. It looked like they were all three looking at something. When I brought my head back to the right to look at them, within a few seconds while they were looking on the counter, they all three turned around at the same time, and we just sat there for probably about 15, 20 seconds looking at each other. I just saw like long hair. They looked kind of fatigued. I couldn't really see their faces. Eyes were a little big. It seemed something a little odd about their ears, but I felt relaxed, and we just looked at each other, and I laid back down. And I woke up the next day, and I just remembered it. It just stuck with me. So not until years later did I realize that I was actually on a ship. And it started out being the ships that I started seeing in 2011, just off the deck of my home. So it started, the dream. I remembered it for years, and I forgot about it. But when in 2011, when the UFO started hovering around my home, that's when I took notice to them right away, and the outside of them looked exactly like what I would have saw on the inside. I'm not sure what they were doing. I'm not sure what they were doing or why I was up there. I don't know, but I feel like it was the Pleiadians. Considering all my after having my experience starting in 2011, that's the UFOs that were hovering off the deck of my home there, out back above the lake. I discovered later that those were Pleiadian UFOs, so I just made a connection with that.
How do you know they're Pleiadian? How do you know they're Pleiadian ships?
Well, I was watching the UFOs. I'd watch them for an hour at a time, and they'd be as close as 150 feet away, mainly about 500 to 700 feet away, and they would just hover there. They showed me their ships. I'd have to look at them with my night vision, otherwise you could not see them. But we would sit there and watch them the whole time, just wondering what was going on. They were just there every night. I got a little scared out in the middle of it, probably around the fifth, sixth time that they were there. I just didn't know what was going on. But come to realize a week later, after enjoying watching them some more, I realized that they were there to make me realize that there is life here. There are UFOs, and we've been being lied to. And I just started waking up. And I was going through a lot during that time. It was pretty hard. It was something else. I immediately got on the internet after about 3 weeks of this happening. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. But knowing what the shape of the ships looked like, about 4 or 5 months later, I ran into a chart on the internet because I started doing some research to see what was going on. I didn't know where to go. I called MUFON. I called a bunch of places. I couldn't get any help to understand what was going on, or if the radar, the airport's seen this object, or what have you. I even called Fort McCoy to see if they had anything on their radar, but they weren't helpful at all. So I just didn't know where to go, so I started searching on the internet. I learned about YouTube. I had a Facebook page, but I wasn't doing much on it. That wasn't my thing. I was too busy working. And but anyway, I started doing some research, and along the way, I found a chart where it showed the ships, and it described who the ships belonged to. And when I finally found the one that I was watching off the deck of my home, it described it was a Pleiadian ship, and that's how I ended up finding out that it was Pleiadian.
That's great. I would like to see that chart. I guess maybe if you have it, send it to us, because that would be interesting to see the chart.
I just have the chart. I don't have the stuff that came with it. But I did, however, manage to save a picture of the whole chart. I'm sure if I went searching for it, I could find it again.
Okay, that sounds good.
With the information attached to it.
Yeah.
But that's how I came to that discovery, and things just progressed from there. I realized after about 3-4 weeks that I watched. It was amazing. Every time I get off of work, I'd get home and I'd go right to the computer. And when I turned my computer on, there would be the next video for me to see. Everything was falling right into place, like they were sending me messages. One of the first videos I ever seen was a Pleiadian message, a wake-up call for the family of light, and it resonated with me really, really good. And I woke up. I felt like I knew my job. I felt like I was here to do something, and I was here to wake up humanity. I always kind of felt like that, but after watching that video, it struck me pretty hard. I remember when I realized all this, what was going on. I knew that I could see things that were going on with this chem spraying. I just started seeing that stuff and got a little bit of research in it, but I understood it right away. But I remember standing out back, and I just asked them, I said, I'll make you a deal. You guys give me pictures and video and guide me. I'll try to wake up as many people as I can. And I just along the way I was having more and more experiences. With aliens, I even had aliens following me around. I don't think I put that story in I don't know if I had that story in that video or not.
Do tell about aliens following you around. That sounds like a great story.
But I'll get to that after I finish this. After I was out there in the yard, and that felt silly, but I really felt like I needed to do this. And I went out there and I asked them, just to protect me if I get pictures and videos, because it looked like I started to realize that this might be a little bit dangerous, just from the little bit that I started seeing with other people's stories. So that's when I think it was about a week after that, they gave me the privilege of one of the UFOs were hovering off the deck of my home, about 1,000 feet away off to the right. He was below some cloud cover. It was solid low cloud cover, like it was going to rain, but it never rained, and it was just before dark. And so I could use my night vision to see this UFO. He'd come down underneath the cloud, and he was hovering there. I just walked out there too. I just walked out, just got home, and I had a lot of divine timing. I'd do everything right it just perfect timing. But anyway, I was watching this UFO hovering there, and then he took off to the left across the lake, right across the deck, from the right side to the left side of the house, but right in front of me, and just zipped right out. And I was like, oh, what the heck? He took off. But for a few minutes, I was searching around for him, and something just told me to go, look back at where I seen him, and I pointed my scope or my night vision back over that direction, and here he come again, perfect timing. He's just hovering underneath the cloud, and he's hovering there for a few minutes, and then he took off again. And he did this about 3-4 times, and it was odd. I was like, why does he keep taking off and coming back to the same spot? And then I heard as I'm watching him, I heard my friends come up. They're stopping by to visit, Doris and Travis. I heard them. I yelled at them to hurry up and come up here, and they're like, what? I said, there's a UFO right here. You want to watch it? And they're like, no. I was like, yeah, look, right here. And I gave Doris the scope, and she pointed out. I got her set where it was, and she seen it, and she was like, oh, yeah, I see it. What is that? I said, it's a UFO. And she was looking at it. She said, yeah, you're right. I don't want. I told you before I don't want to know anything about this. Where's Jamie? So she went in the home, and we handed the scope to Travis, and he got his eye on it right away. Too, it was still hovering there, and he said the same thing. What is that? I said, it's a UFO, and he's like, well, it does look like one. I was like, yeah, and then it took off. He goes, hey, it just took off. I said, yeah, it's been doing that for the last 10 minutes before you guys got here. I said, but just don't worry. I said, watch, I'll come right back. So 2-3 minutes went by, and he's looking around, and I was like, look back over where you saw it. And it took a couple times of saying that, but he finally looked back over there, and then the UFO showed up. He goes, oh, there it is again. I said, yeah, isn't that weird? He's like, yeah. And he sat there watching it. And it took off again. And I came back, and I was just standing down the deck from him, and he's watching it again. He told me to come back, and he's really liking this. And I just happened to look to the right in his direction where he's standing in the corner of the deck, and I saw a big black flash. It was pretty big, probably about 500 feet away in between us and the distance of the other ship. And I seen it, and I quick yelled. I said, did you just see a black flash? He's like, no, I just saw a white flash, and that UFO took off. I'm like, what? And I stood there for a minute, and I was thinking, what the hell did I just see? I said, half a minute went by. I was like, well, let me know when that UFO comes back. It's all right. He's looking around the sky in different directions looking for it, and sure enough, it comes back to the same spot a few minutes later. And I said, let me know when that UFO takes off again. Let me know if you see that white flash again, too. He's like, all right. So we're sitting there, and I'm looking, and a few minutes go by, and all of a sudden, here goes that big black flash again. He goes, I just saw that white flash, and that UFO just took off again. And I scratched my head. We had this happen one more time, and while I was waiting for the second time to happen, I just saw this. I was thinking to myself, cat and mouse game. That UFO over there is chasing off whatever this big black object is. I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Boy, did I say that a lot. But I said to Travis, after we watched it for about 10 more minutes, I said, Travis, let's go in and see what the girls are doing. We went in, and that was, so I was very blessed. I felt very blessed to be able to see that I was actually being protected from whatever it was. I really don't know. That just still blows my mind today. But what was I going to get to next? So this was going on throughout the rest of the fall. And we were just seeing auras and other things. A lot of us were seeing things. Let me think here. Let's see. And then a year later came, and I'm going to kind of skip through a year here, and then let's see. It was a week before the New Year's 2013. I've been having experiences. I've been meeting a lot of people on Facebook, learning and just learning and understanding a lot with their guidance, amazing guidance, how the information came, how everything fell into place. How I got into doing the chem spraying. I didn't want, for some reason, I didn't want to do just UFOs. I was looking at the chem spray. I was just trying to dive into everything. But I kept hearing from other people that they wanted to meet me, and I was hearing this for a good 5-6 months from some of the people I was talking to on the internet. And December rolled around, 2012, probably I think it was the third week. I was sitting there on my deck. I think I was right around the 24th, 23rd December. But I was sitting there in my kitchen, and the dining room table's right in front of me, and then there's the sliding glass doors to the deck of the house on the lakeside. And I was doing some work on the internet. A friend of mine earlier was telling me that, that they wanted to meet me to be prepared. I said, all right. So anyway, this night came. I was sitting there, and there was this big house on the other side of the lake. For some reason, they had all their lights on. I thought it was kind of odd. I'd never seen all of their lights on. Big, beautiful home. I kept seeing something out of the corner of my eye on the deck, moving around. I wasn't sure, but I just happened to catch it the third time I looked up, and I saw something go in front of that house. It was invisible, and I just thought to myself, oh, it must be one of them UFOs. That's cool. They're out there. They're keeping an eye on me. But I went back to work, and I kept noticing something on the deck. And then I finally looked up, and there was the alien. The ceiling light in the kitchen was fluorescent, and the top of the sliding glass door shadowed the being's face, so I couldn't see him from his shoulders up, but his whole body was standing there. And I stood up, the stool I was sitting on flew back, and I kind of panicked. I was like, holy cow, and then I sure remembered, they were going to come. And so I just stood there for a minute, and I didn't know what to do, and I kind of backed up to the kitchen sink, and I just stood there I'm seeing him here. I said, if that's you, can you come a little closer? And he came halfway across the deck and stood in the middle of the deck in front of the door. I was like, holy cow! So I'm trying to get my composure.
Wow.
And I was nervous. And I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta ask him in. So then I didn't know what to do. And he was moving around. I could see moving his arms, and we were just looking at each other. But like I said, I couldn't really see his head. We were just standing there facing each other. And so I didn't know what to do. I was just trying to gather my senses. So I walked through the doorway into the living room, which it's pretty open in there. I could still see him standing on the deck. And I went in and I sat down for a minute, and I tried to get myself, and I'm trying to talk to myself, calm down. And then I started to invite him in. I didn't know if I was supposed to go over and open the door or what, but I was too afraid to move. But we just stood there for another 5 minutes, and then he walked across the deck in front of the other big window in the living room, and then he left. I didn't see him anymore. And I was wow. And that's what I was thinking of my 5 minutes later, I'm thinking to myself, should I went over there and open the door? I mean, did I just ruin my chance? What just happened here? I don't think I was ready. A lot of things were going through my mind, and then I'm getting upset because my family just wasn't believing me. They wouldn't come over to the house. I mean, I showed other people the UFOs, but they didn't care. They didn't want to know, and I was a little upset. So I ended up calling my mom called my mom and told her about it, and I was pretty upset and kind of yelling at her a little bit. Well, why don't you guys listen to me? But she kept telling me I was hallucinating and I'm on drugs and what have you. And I just ended up hanging up the phone. And about 10 minutes later, I was sitting there back at my computer trying to get my composure. I heard some guys yell, should I go on to the cop story? My mom ended up calling the cops, and the cops came over.
Yeah.
They came in, and they asked me if I was okay. They were yelling. They startled me. I heard, Rob West. And I heard it. It startled me, and then I heard it again, and they were at the wrong door. So I went over and opened it, and there was two cops standing there. I said, is he Rob West? I said, yeah, come on in. I said, go around to the other door, though, and come on in. So they came around, and they came in, and they're like, are you okay? He goes, we just had a phone call to come here and check on you. I said, I bet you I know who called you. I said, I'm sure it was my mom. So I just got off the phone with her, and then I told them about the alien. My computer was on. I said, here. I said, I explained it to them frantically. And they asked me if I was on drugs. I said, no. I said, look at me. I said, do I look like I'm on drugs? And they both looked at me, and I said, here. I said, I'll show you pictures. I got all kinds of stuff already. I'll show you. He's like, no. The sergeant already showed us some of your stuff at the station. I just kind of looked at him funny. I looked at him funny, like, what? Really? Well, let me show you some more. And I could just tell after telling them about the alien that they started stepping away. They wanted to leave. I'm like, no. I said, stay here. I said, but they didn't want to leave. I talked to her maybe briefly another minute, and then they left. And they, making sure I was okay. I said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, I'll be all right. But they left. But then a week later, I was invited to a friend's house for New Year's Eve. He was having a band in his garage and some people over. And I just met him a couple months before. I knew him a little bit, but we kind of became friends later that summer. But they invited me over, and I don't know, there must have been about 20 people there. I was there for about an hour and a half, I think. But I got there, I was kind of talking to people, and I was kind of being quiet because I had a lot on my mind. But I was just trying to enjoy myself, something different, trying to, feel normal again or something, which I couldn't do. But I hung out. Not too many people were talking to me, and they kind of kept their distance, and I get a few conversations, what have you. But I ended up sitting over on there was 3 steps going up into this hallway that went into the kitchen. I ended up sitting there for a little bit. And Amanda, my friend's girlfriend, the one that's invited me over, she walked past me and went into the kitchen. It's no big deal. She was in there for a few minutes, and I was just sitting there, and I felt her come by as she was walking by. I felt like her hand come right over the top of my head. I was like, well, she must have been just picking her hand up and, getting it over my head so she didn't hit me as she was walking by. What have you, and I stayed for probably another 20, 15 minutes, and I left. They didn't say anything to me. They just told me to have a good night and bye. Later that week, they invited me over for a card game. And I said, all right. So I went over to their house, and everyone has their kids there. Dan and his wife was there. He was a 52-year-old man. I met him once at that party. They were there for the card party. It was my buddy and then another one of his friends, and his wife, Dan's wife, was there. She was laying on the bed. We were in their large bedroom because the kids were out watching movies in the living room. But I sat in the chair where there was a corner behind me, white wall, nothing else behind me. But I sat there, and we normally, we sit around, we played quarters, card games for quarters. Poker, and these games would last 2 or 3 hours, just something to do. Mm-hmm. But this time it only lasted about an hour. There was a reason for it. But I remember looking at Dan across me about a half hour through the game, and I remember he was looking down at his hand, and he was opening up his cards really slow, like there was something wrong with him. And he had his hand right in front of him, and he picked his eyes up, looked right at me, and then was looking right above my head, and it was really slow, and I thought it was kind of odd. And his wife, she laid on that bed for the whole time with her hand laying on her side with her head on her hand, her elbow on the bed. The whole hour that we were there, and never really took her eyes off me. I thought that was kind of odd too. But the game ended early. They didn't want to play anymore, so they all left the room to say goodbye to Dan and his wife, and they were out there for a good 20 minutes. They were all talking, but I couldn't really hear them. But I just sat in the room and just kind of waited for my buddy to come back in. Whatever. I sat around for another 10, 15 minutes, and then I decided to go home. And then a few days later, I got a call from Amanda. She says, "You got to come over here right now." I said, "All right, well, I was coming into town anyway." So I drove into town, and I stopped by, and I walked in, and she's sitting in the living room. And she goes, "I got to tell you something." She goes, we've all been talking about this, and nobody wants to tell you. They're afraid to. They don't know if we should tell you. They think you already know. We're not sure because you have the UFOs and all that. I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Why? What's going on?" She goes, "Remember when you were here for the New Year's Eve party?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "You know that cloud that follows Charlie Brown around in that Charlie Brown cartoon?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "You had something like that hovering over your head when you were here for that party." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah." She goes, and I'm like, "Well, what color was it?" She goes, "It was like dark." I said, "You're kidding me." I said, "How big was it? Basketball, football size?" She's like, "I don't know about football." And she goes, "Yeah, I watched it the whole night. That's why I stood away from you because I could see it." I was like, and then she's like, "You remember when I walked past you to go into the kitchen, and you were sitting on the steps?" I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, I walked past you to go into the kitchen. I didn't go in there to get anything. I sat in there. I walked around for a few minutes because it was bugging me. What is that? Because I could see it. But when I came back out, I ran my hand through it to see if it would move, and it didn't. I said, "Yeah, I felt you. I thought you were just putting your hand over me when you walked past me." I'm like, "Wow, this is pretty interesting. What the hell is this?" And she's like, "Well, that ain't nothing." I said, "Remember when you were here?" She's like, "You remember when you were here for the card game?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, Dan could see something standing behind you." I'm like, "What? Really? Where is he?" I said, "I want to talk to him." And she explained it for another minute, and all of a sudden here come Dan walking out from the back room. And I stopped him. I said, "Dan," Amanda was just telling me what you guys were seeing. I said, "I'll only ask you one time." I said, "Can you explain to me and describe to me what you saw?" And he stood there, and Amanda was telling me that his wife could see it. She's telling me a little bit of a story that his wife, I said, "Oh, that's why she couldn't take her eyes off me." And then I said to Amanda, when he looked at me funny when he was holding his cards. But anyway, Dan's standing there, and I right away I asked him, I said, "What color was it?" He was like, "I don't know." He said it was like grayish blue. And I said, "Well, what did it look like?" And he goes, "I don't know, I could only see it from the shoulders up, but it was standing right behind you." And he put his hands up over his head, and both of his hands, and he's like, it was kind of big up here, and he brought he's like big eyes. He's putting his fingers around his eyes. He said they're kind of big eyes, kind of almond shaped. He said, and he's like no nose. And the cheeks were kind of narrow, like that. And he had both of his hands on his cheeks, and he's like a real small mouth. I said, "Really?" I said, "What was it doing?" He said the whole time we were there, I could see it, and so could my wife. But every time someone would take their turn, it was their turn to play or whatever, he could see it turning its head like it was watching the game. And I'm like, "Wow." I said, "Wow." I said, "I didn't even know." And I thanked him for telling me. I thanked him for taking the time out to tell me. And so so I just felt like they were following me around. I felt like I had around at the time, because of things that were going on. I had the helicopters already. I've been shot at from a helicopter. They cut right in front of me, and my semi hit me with a particle beam. all these things are going through my mind. I'm just thinking, wow, I'm thinking to myself, did they send a ground person to be with me, to watch over me? I didn't really know. I never did get a clear answer on it, but just only the best conclusion I could come to with it. So things were just getting a little overwhelming. You know, it's been going on
Let's pause for a moment
a year and a half, and there's a lot of other stuff I could just.
Can you hear me? Let's just pause for a little bit here and I'll ask you some questions, okay? Who wants to go first, John or Karen? How about you, John?
Hey, do you want me to go first, Karen, or do you have something already lined up?
No, he's expressing some stuff that you've told me about. It'd be interesting to hear your response.
You know, I was telling Rob earlier, right before the show, that our experiences mirror one another very closely. On February 27th, I was abducted after going to a MUFON meeting. And, you know, when you surround yourself with other experiencers and you really connect with them on a spiritual level, I think it opens you up to seeing more UFOs and more extraterrestrials also. And when I have conversations through these radio shows with individuals like Rob and even Byron Lacey last week, I start to see things appear in my house. Like, you know, one thing I try and tell everybody is that ET is always in the room with us, whether we realize it or not. They're just vibrating at a higher frequency, and we can't necessarily see them. But I have trained my body, mind, spirit to traverse into their dimension and be able to see them. And it's something I can do quite easily now. It took me years to really learn how to do it. And once I learned how to do it, it started happening even more and more and more. Another thing I've learned how to do is to look into infrared and ultraviolet light spectrums, which is often used as cloaking devices for alien aircraft. And when you can do that, you don't necessarily need the goggles to be able to see into these spectrums. We had a lady named Lynn Hartram on our show, a few weeks ago, and she's a full-on experiencer also. And I was telling her March of last year about a red UFO that I saw, that I was training myself to look into these infrared and ultraviolet light spectrums, and I saw a red UFO. And it pretty much stayed stationary in the sky for like 6 or 7 hours. So it wasn't a star. It wasn't anything that you could describe in science away. I'm real sick of hearing the scientists science everything away, that it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. So I called Lynn Hartram and I told her what I saw. And she saw the same thing and had an infrared camera and was able to take a picture of it, which was amazing. And then she sent me the picture. I'm like, that's exactly what I saw. But on February 27th, when I was abducted, earlier that day, after the MUFON meeting, I started seeing low-flying aircraft over my home. They would go from north to south, then they would go from east to west, and they were unmarked white Cessnas, which I went online and found out that's a big surveillance vehicle that they use. And then I saw drones also. And this happened prior to the abduction. And then I asked Karen, or I told Karen about it. Karen, what do you think it is? And I said, how do they know that I was going to be abducted before I actually was abducted? And she said that they were able to tap into time loops and be able to tell the future, so that they knew I was going to be abducted even before it even happened. And they had surveillance vehicles in place ready to do analysis and research on what was happening to me. So now I got to figure that, I've got you and me, Rob, and pretty much everybody listening to this show or on the panel right now. We have agents assigned to us to study us and to follow us because they know that we're magnets for this kind of activity. And then a couple weeks ago, I see a low-flying helicopter over my house, and it had a green light coming out of it, almost like a laser almost. And I watched it for probably 20, 30 minutes, and it knew that I was watching it. It wanted me to know that it was there, and it wanted me to know that, yes, we're watching you and we can see you watching us. And I asked Karen, I said, what did you think the green light was? She said, I bet it was some kind of X-ray technology. Remember that, Karen? When that it actually made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, like you see the green tint when you're seeing night vision type goggles, because that's one of the spectrums that helps to see. I think probably because it's similar to infrared, it's the opposite spectrum of the green, so it lightens everything up. Or being a UFO, their use of frequencies might give them a different effect. I don't know, but continue.
Okay, how about this? Here we go. Rob mentioned in his video, and you gotta go see this video on YouTube. It is sensational. Rob, what is the exact title of the video so people can go look it up?
I just call it some of my experiences since 2011.
Okay, yeah, exactly. All right, that's it. Some of my experiences since 2011. But one thing he mentioned in the video is that the extraterrestrials aircraft that they use light to mask themselves as if they are stars. And that's exactly what's been happening to me. I look up in the sky, see what looks like a star, and then it's funny, I'll have a sky full of stars, but then I'll get drawn to one in particular. I mean, almost like a tractor beam pulls my head to the side and makes me fixate on a certain point of light in the sky. And if I look at them long enough, they start to move. Mm-hmm. And then if I blink my eye or turn my head for a minute, they'll snap right back into place as if they were a star or a satellite in orbit. Remember talking about that, Rob? I found that very interesting because that same thing happens to me.
Yes, same here. That's what made me start videotaping and taking pictures of them, because they would do that absolutely. They would go up and down, maybe to the left and right. Sometimes they'd go in circles. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they would zigzag kind of up to the right or left or down. And they would just move around, and you could watch them. I've had these stars come all the way from the horizon, all the way up over the sky, come right up above me, and they would hover there for a good 10 minutes or so, and then they would either take off to the left or to the right, giving me some really good views of them, showing me that they are ships, and that's how I ended up getting some of my captures. It's amazing. It's like they know when we're looking at them.
They do.
It's like they're tied. It's like we're tied right into them. Or we're tied right into each other. It's the most awesomest feeling. And I was going to say too. I have a video of a red orb, a red ship. I'll have to send that to you to see if it's the same thing.
Probably may or may not be the exact same ship, but same description, I would assume.
Yeah, this one's actually going through the air, and he actually goes. You'll see him go right behind a building, and he's shining. That red ship of yours, did it look like it was flashing its red light down towards the ground or anything?
No, it was just a point of light. It was just a red point of light. And this lady, Lynn Hartram, that we were talking about, or I was talking about earlier, the same red light followed her. It followed her while she was driving, and she had her daughter in the car, and she got to the point where she pulled off to the side of the road and got out her infrared video camera and took some videos and some still photos of it and sent it to me. And I'm like, that's exactly what I saw. And when I told her what I saw, the event that happened to her happened like 2 or 3 days later. So I know that there was something to it. She and I, after talking to each other, absolutely know that we've been visited by the same extraterrestrials, including the Arcturians and the Pleiadians. Remember I was telling you about the blue people earlier on the phone before the show. They came right out and said that they were from the Pleiades. They must have said this in front of 15 people. And then the one leader said that I'm a shifter and I'm a healer. And it just blew our minds. And then half of us right then blacked out. You know, I know that half of us were about to break out our phones and take pictures of them, and none of us could do it. I mean, imagine I'm standing right next to him. I touched him a number of times. I shook his hand. It took me 10 minutes of staring at him before it soaked into my consciousness that this human is blue. And somebody even mentioned our Keith Andrews, who we had on the show a couple months ago. He's the one who said, your skin is blue. And that's when he said, yes, I'm a Pleiadian, and I'm a shifter, and I'm a healer. And it was interesting because maybe a month or so ago, I had a dream with Travis Walton in it, of all people, who was at the UFO conference. And according to Audrey Hewins, the blue people went up and talked to him, and he acknowledged that they were blue people. But anyway, Travis Walton comes up to me in my dream and says, the way to shapeshift is to phase the mitochondrial DNA and, in effect, change your DNA, and that's how you shapeshift. And I'm like, oh, my God, that was a dream? or was that a visitation? I'm not exactly sure.
That is awesome. I haven't had
what
any
are dreams
like that.
What are dreams, right? You know, what are dreams? Who's to say that dreams aren't any less real than quote unquote reality? You know, there's a new article, I'm trying to pull it up here, that came out about our DNA and how that, and we were reading it today. I did a little show with my husband earlier. And scientists prove that DNA can be reprogrammed by words and frequencies in science. But it's talking about how when we come into resonant harmony with each other, we co-create our reality. We shift things, and we can actually, by, you know, focusing on up-leveling ourselves and humanity, shift us from a level 0 civilization to a level 1, and we can shift us from, you know, we can affect the weather. This is a research that was this is scientific research from the Russians, and they were saying, well, yeah, we don't think that that junk DNA is really junk, because they were convinced that nature was not dumb. You know, God's not that stupid to make junk DNA. So they did this big, extensive analysis, and DNA is not only responsible for the construction of our body, but also serves as data storage and in communication. It's a long article. I just put it up there on Aquarian Radio, and we can go through it. But thoughts are deeds, and be careful what you think. But what you were talking about is that when you see UFOs, when I was a kid, I would see the UFOs, but they were drawn to me. And I heard you say this, Rob, that you invite your friends to a UFO party.
Yep.
And when you have a UFO party, and you're the one that, you know, you believe in them, you believe in them, and then they come and part of them starts to be live, then the UFOs start showing up because they're all telepathic and we're all connected. And they go further in the article about through the what are they called? The wormholes. The singularities is what Nassim Harriman says. We have these little tiny wormholes, and they are part of how DNA can store information, and DNA is linked to these wormholes. So within each person's body and within each molecule and cell and solar system and planet and galaxy, there's a singularity, a wormhole, and that's how we're all connected as one. So this information is just transferring between our individual and collective wormholes and between each other. And so we're open to the UFOs. These people are open to come to your party, and next thing you know, everybody sees UFOs. And that's what I think Stephen Greer did for years. He said, we're going to go call down the UFOs. And it worked over and over, and that's what Michael Lee Hill does, and that's what you do. So you're inviting contact. And people are saying, well, when's Hillary going to, blah, blah, when's the president, when's whoever going to reveal and do this disclosure? Well, you know, especially if you read this article and wrap your head around it, or read it again until you do, we don't have to rely on anything external anymore. We have our own disclosure. We can up-level creation by our group consensus, and we can cure all our disease, and all we need is our mind and languaging. So be careful when you say things like, what's my one friend says all the time, I'm gonna. It's like I'm going to, or anyway, you've got to bring it into the now, bring it into manifestation, bring it into consciousness, and if that's really your strongest desire, and for me, I mean, we can make another bad reality. We can have another Hitler. We can have World War III, whatever. I'm bored with that. How about let's up-leveling all creation and create something where it really feels good for everybody? Wouldn't it be? I mean, we've been conditioned to think that there's only part of humanity that gets to feel good and the rest gets to suffer and struggle, and, and they all deserve it on some level. It's like, no. We're all worthy. We're all worthy of a existence embodied on the earth that really feels good and is free of struggle. Okay, somebody else. I'm done preaching.
Ken, yeah.
Let's go next.
Sometimes when you do that, Janet, I want to say, can you get an amen? I love it.
Amen.
All right. Exactly, because this is. I'm feeling a lot of parallels here too, because like you were both you and John were talking about, you kind of can play this game where you see them and you find them and you share them, and I do that too. I went to James Gilliland's East Eddy Ranch one night. It's quite a hot spot. And one night I saw 17 UFOs, and that started me off in quite an adventurous summer where I saw 30, I don't know, very interesting ones. And I had that timing experience where one night I just woke up out of a cold, dead sleep. I looked straight out this one window, and I immediately saw a fireball go to the sky. I mean, I was like, how come I woke up just in time to see that, spectacular thing? And so I think, we have this time connection, there's that big sky, It's like, where do you look, I seem to know when to go out, and look, and kind of where to look. And one time that year, in fact, I was thinking to myself that I had my birthday came up, it's in April, and I said, I'm going to get a UFO for my birthday. I just knew it. And I was looking up at this one thing, and my ex-husband said, I think that's a satellite. And I said, no, that's a UFO. And I said, watch, it's going to turn. And by golly, it turned. It took a 90-degree turn, got really, really bright, and I'm assuming went straight up. Because you know how they have that real bright, and then boom, they're gone, and it kind of looks like they just went straight up. And I go, see, I told you I was going to get a UFO for my birthday. That's one of the best birthday presents I ever had. But it was like, we had this connection, and I think it's when you were talking about waking up, it's suddenly like, I call a UFO like a item of mass instruction, because I saw my most significant UFO experiences was 1979, where I saw one quite close with another witness, and I believe I had some missing time issues there with that. And then I just didn't have a belief system, like your mom calling the cops. I'm so glad my mom never called the cops to check on me. Fortunately, she knew I was kind of a weird child from the beginning. So when I began to unfold the story, she actually wasn't surprised, which was nice. But, it was kind of like I didn't have a space in my head for that. I got real interested in UFOs. I kind of did like that guy on Close Encounters at Nixon Mashed Potato Mountain, and goes crazy and he has clippings from everything. So I did about a year or two of that. And then I just decided I wasn't ready for it in my life. And I just shut that out. And it was like shutting off a switch. Boom, no more. Until I got down the road further and was able to absorb more. And, of course, we've had soft disclosure, which is basically they are revealing to us this reality, but they're doing it slowly and through, like, movies and stuff. And we say on here very frequently that your George Lucas, your Steven Spielberg, and your Gene Roddenberry have revealed a lot verbatim in a movie form, and we're getting warmed up. But it's us experiencers that I guess you'd have to say push it over the goal line, so to speak, because we can have an expert tell us, like Dennis just talked about they're intimating that if Hillary gets elected, she'll do the disclosure. I don't believe politicians, but I'm kind of dubious. But even if they did, it's like half the people wouldn't believe her because they're Republicans. You know what I mean? It's like we have a divided house, So I think that what's happening to us, it's been for a while. We've been on our own having this experience and hoping we weren't crazy. We're in a new phase of this because through the internet and radio shows, and when you were waking up, you found all these videos and stuff. They seem to be tailor-made. I've had that same experience. It seems like we're in this process of having, I was like, when I was really lonely and didn't have anybody around me, anybody to talk to, I do have ET guides, and I sent them my question. I said, how come we're all spread apart and we can only get to know each other by like social media and stuff? It's hard to meet each other. And they showed me a vision of a bowl of mashed potatoes, and it had pepper all in one corner. And if you took a bite of that mashed potatoes, you'd get a mouthful of pepper, and then it'd be bland all the way the rest of the time you're eating it. Whereas if you stir the potatoes up, you've got the little pieces of pepper just about evenly spread in every bite. And I know it sounds silly, but it made sense to me. It's like we've been, separated in our own little world, peppering up the reality construct. But I do believe that they're giving us a break, and we're finally meeting each other, having this conversation. It's a new era, which is really great because, either we're all crazy and but we're having a party with it. We're having a good time and are crazy. So at least we're not the only crazy ones. So yeah, I just wanted to reflect some of what you're saying. It's spot on with the experience or past, truly. But go ahead.
Next person.
Yeah, I was.
Back to you. Let's hear from Rob again for a little bit. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, you were when you were talking in the beginning there about how we've been open up these portals and show people, ships and what have you, invite them over. It reminded me of this time when I was over by Old Man Mike's house, and I was showing him those stars that would move around in circles and up and down like we were talking about earlier, and the UFO came right through his backyard, turned his lights on and everything. After we were done looking at it, Mike couldn't hold his neck up in the air anymore, and then as soon as he brought his head down, a UFO turned its lights on and went right through his backyard, probably 500 feet away. And he's like, "Whoa, did you just see that?" I was like, "Yeah, a UFO." I said, "See, I told you." And I opened his eyes right up, and it made me realize something too. Right away I said to him, I said, "They must really like you." I said, "To do something like that, to come down, down this far, and be up close like that." And I started, and I've been doing this for a while and what have you. I went over to, no, I better not bring that up. But it's the connection.
Oh, you're not going to bring that one up. No, you're like a tease. You did that to me in the private conversation. You start saying, no, I'm not going to bring it.
Yeah, well,
that's funny.
There's some things I don't want to bring anybody into because they don't believe in it. All my friends, everybody I grew up with, they're all on my Facebook, and I'm going to put this archived video on my wall so they can listen to it. And most of them laugh about me, and I don't want to put anybody in that position with me that doesn't want that. So I'm just trying to protect somebody there with that aspect. I went over to a person's house, and I went to show him the same thing. We were looking up at this star, and this person, he's not a believer. I thought maybe I could wake him up too and what have you. But I was showing him this star, and we stood there for a good 3 minutes, and it just wouldn't move. It wouldn't do anything. And I even looked at him. I was like, wow. I said, this is the first time that's ever happened. I said, ooh. I didn't mean to say it to him, but I was like, I said, that's not good. I said, I didn't know what else to say to him, but it made me realize something, that they're not going to make themselves known to just everybody. You have to be in your right, open-minded, good-hearted, So I don't know, it feels like there might still be some type of separation where not everybody's going to have this opportunity to wake up or see these things. I don't know why I brought it up, but it's just a memory. It made me feel bad. You know,
that's okay. Go with the flow of consciousness, because things are, you know, when we're doing this natural flow, things that are important percolate up to the top, and they need to be shared. Karen always says this, we have a strong need to share right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sharing this, we're getting validation by being witnessed and understand. All of us, on some level, want to be normal. Like, we're never going to be normal, right? But there's still, you know, that's why these kids, you know, go to school and they buy the designer, you know, tennis shoes, whatever. It's like to fit in and that's something that's kind of ingrained in us from when we, you know, childhood. We want to be accepted because, you know, we don't want to be rejected. And so we're here to accept each other, and it's a safe space. And we don't, you know, I've removed all the comments on my YouTubes because I didn't want to hear any criticism, even when it wasn't about me, because I just didn't want people criticizing these people that are so brave to come out and tell their stories. And I really appreciate each and every one of you that's ever come on my show or ever walked up and talked to me. And together we are creating this shift. We are creating a shift in consciousness. And finally, you know, we co-create together this reality, which really is, you know, designed to respect and honor all of our intelligences, all of our life forces, all of our souls. And it's about time. So I wanted to share something, and then I'll pass it on to John. We haven't heard from John in a little while. But, Karen, you sparked a memory in me. When I used to come home from teaching, I taught a class at Penn State University for adult education. They called it I had to apply to teach a class. It was all free, no cost to me. They didn't charge me for the classroom, and no charge to anybody who came. And we called it the Penn State UFO Discussion Group. And I ran with my friend Beth, where I don't know where you are in the world, Beth. I hope someday you reach out and talk to me on Facebook. And I know you changed your name, so it probably isn't Beth. I can't find you. But anyway, we would prepare a full-on kind of like a class every week. We had to do this every week. And we would, go on television. And back then it was VHSs, right? You had your recorder, and we had to haul a little tiny. They didn't have audiovisual. They didn't give us a television. We had to haul our own little television into the class every week. And we had about 30 to 40 people in every week, just hungry for the information on what was going on with UFOs. And then after this incredible, it was supposed to be like 2 hours, but sometimes it would last, 3 or 4 hours because everybody's coming up after and wanting to, talk about the phenomenon. I would drive home, and I was in total communication with ET, and I would be coming down these country roads in the middle of Pennsylvania, in State College, Pennsylvania, very beautiful, and there was no one on the road but me. And I'd say, okay, if you're real, give me a sign. And they would flash over my head. They would come from behind, go straight across in front of me, so it was directly in the center of my view, or they would come straight across, and this was sideways, right, across my windshield as I'm driving, in a distance, but enough that it was like just totally in my view. I didn't have to turn my head right or left. They were making sure I could just drive straight, keep driving, and we're going to give you a show. And every time I was coming home, I'd say, okay, where's my show? And they would do it all the way up, so I would park the car, and I'd get out, and I'd look up, straight up, and I'd say, okay, I'm going in. I want to see one more, please. And they would do another one. They always flashed. They weren't, like a falling shooting star. They were across the sky, either sideways or from front to back or back to front, just in my range of vision. And then I'd say thank you, and I'd go into my bed. And then my husband was very conservative, and he thought I was crazy on teaching UFO class. And my husband, he's a very conservative Republican kind of guy. So I really want to thank ETs for validating my existence over and over and over till for me personally, there's no denying that something is going on. And I love it, like you're having, Rob, when you get witnesses. It's like, okay, you want to see this? Come on, let's go see it. And you get all these people seeing it. I just think it brings me, great joy to be able to share this with people.
It does.
John.
It does. I had a lot of those same experiences, too, with those UFOs flying, just turning the lights on and flying through the air.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, John.
Okay.
So going back to Rob, I'm just going to keep talking about Rob's video. it was so good. He would explain things, and then the audio would stop, and then you would see a picture pop up. And, if you get these photo analysts, you just want to smack them sometimes because they just try and science everything away, the shutter speed, the lighting geometry and all this stuff. But some of those photos would be really difficult to argue against. I'm sure you would agree, Rob.
Oh, yeah.
And then some of them are very much open to interpretation. For example, the angel, who somebody else thought was perhaps a wolf. I saw an angel. I mean, I saw the angel clear as day. Maybe because I'm in constant communication with angels, I don't know. But it was pretty obvious to me that, yes, in fact, that was an angel. Some of the crafts that he took pictures of, it's very interesting. They almost look like they were broken down into fractals. Very interesting. You can see a geometry in some of the crafts. Some of the crafts just look like, crafts that you could imagine. Other crafts didn't look like crafts at all. It was kind of hard to discern or decipher what exactly that they were. But I know that anything that he took a picture of that he believed was a UFO, I believe that he was completely accurate. And then I don't want to talk too much about certain parts of your video because, of course, it behooves everybody to watch it for themselves. But at a certain time period in his life, and I'm not going to go into detail, it's kind of personal, some of the things he said, but Lady Luck was not going his way. And, like giving you every reason to just quit this whole UFO thing, just to, forget about it forever and move on in a different direction. And you can hear Rob say, I can't. I can't. And then he used the word responsibility. And I feel the same way, that we experiencers have an obligation, a duty, and a responsibility. And he kept using the term to wake people up, And it's not that they're dumb or they just are blind or whatever. It's that they need the right person to introduce to them these ideas and concepts in a way that they can understand and fathom for themselves. Because this stuff is so deep. I mean, it's deeper than the deepest trenches of the Pacific Ocean. It's deeper than the darkest depths of outer space. And it requires individuals like ourselves to diplomatically approach this subject with people that don't believe in it and try and explain it to them in a way that maybe they can believe it. And I think Rob is doing that in his video, and he's very passionate about, I can't stop. At one point, he couldn't even get insurance for his truck. And as a truck driver, Rob, was that done on purpose or what? What do you think?
I would have to say absolutely. I kept all the records and how everything went. I recorded some of the conversations and the emails when all this took place. They've been trying to break me. But I'm a fighter. I fight back, and one thing I have going for me is I know how to survive. And no matter how hard they kick me down, it makes me fight back twice as hard. And I struggle with it. I have a lot of struggles, but I cannot stop doing what I'm doing because with all these experiences I've had and everything I've learned, I feel like we have to wake up humanity. We have to do this. And that's all I've been doing. I've been doing it with my closest friends. I've been doing it with family, people on the street, everywhere I go. If I get a chance to say something or bring something up or explain something, I actually get them to listen, and I'm sending out a lot of light everywhere I go. I'm spark, and I work very hard at it. I just feel like that's what we are here. That's what we are here to do.
Great. Well,
it's
your mission. It's why you were born. It's why you were born, to come here and be the catalyst for this evolution of consciousness. And it's time. It really is time. We've paid our dues. We've been through major wars, and endless centuries of fighting each other, and we've exhausted that paradigm. We've done it every way imaginable. We've killed and been killed in every way you could think of it, been back and born again and again and killed and been killed. And it's like finally, it's enough. Okay, we got it. We got the message behind that one. So can't we join the Federation and go to the stars? You know, in the article they were talking about, let's see if I can get that, where's the levels 1 civilization. Okay, researchers in group consciousness have formulated the theory of type 1 civilizations. A humanity that developed a group consciousness of a new kind would have neither environmental problems nor scarcity of energy. For if it were to use its mental power as a unified civilization, it would have control of the energies of its home planet as a natural consequence, and that includes all natural catastrophes. A theoretical type 2 civilization would even be able to control all energies of their home galaxy. So if we come into this resonant harmony frequency with our minds, and we just do it personally, we unilaterally set down the weapons of war, and that includes your personal wars you have with other people. Yep. Just if you find yourself in any kind of disconnect, judgment, thoughts, projections, rejections, either giving it to someone or experience it, just stop the war within yourself and just send love, shift the perspective, and remember our oneness and that we're all connected. And that's one of the things I've been having to practice all week, because my community here, they're all fighting with each other, and I disengage, walk away, and just from a distance sit there and, in meditation in my own room and just send them love. And guess what? It dissipates. I go down later and it's like, oh, I thought you guys were about to call the police and kill each other, and everybody's peaceful. So it works. I mean, I'm not claiming I'm doing it all, but something's happened when you disengage from your personal wars and struggles and replace it. They said it's languaging. Our thoughts are deeds. The way we symbol and language creates our reality. So we are totally in control and can stop and shift and create it. We don't like the reality we have, shift it, make it better, make it different. Somebody else. We were going to take a break, but we didn't. Does anybody want to take a break?
Yeah, could we?
Yeah, I could use the restroom.
Yeah, okay, everybody. We're all taking a pee break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. Let me find the commercial. Here we go. It's a 4-minute break. Okay, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Take a break.
Join the KCOR Digital Radio Network Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific as we connect the dots and unravel the cosmic mysteries with Divine Paradigm. Divine Paradigm, hosted by Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin. Interview those in the know, whether it be researchers, whistleblowers, contactees, or military mind control programs.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Have you ever wanted to learn about ancient texts, suppressed history, spiritual ascendance, as well as past, future, and simultaneous life existences?
This is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make.
Then you need to tune into Divine Paradigm.
Divine Paradigm.
Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
I'm doing it. I can do it. I'm doing it.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Coming March 1st, 2016.
Every region of the world and most countries can go back in their history and trace their origins, traditions, and religions to a creator god or an angel from the sky, the stars, heaven, or even underground from the underworld. This is the common story of extraterrestrials seeding our planet. My name is Reverend John M. Polk. I am an international metaphysical minister, a Reiki master teacher, and a medium. My book is Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien. The premise of my book is that there is a real God and that Yahweh is a creator God alien who is indicating he is ready to reveal his alien origins to humanity at this time. You can find my book at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com. johnpolkmedia.com.
My name is Karen Christine Patrick, and I want to tell you about the Cleanse for Life solution from Isogenics. The need to cleanse is vital in today's dangerously toxic world. Our demanding lifestyles, environmental toxins, poor nutrition, and daily stresses overload our body's own detoxification defenses. Unlike a colon cleanse or laxative product, Cleanse for Life uses a synergistic blend of gentle cleansing herbs and other natural compounds to ensure the energizing nutrients flood into the body as the toxins are cleansed out. My favorite Isogenics product is the Cleanse for Life solution. I drink it as a hot beverage in the morning every day. You can find out more at my website, kcpatrick.isogenics.com. That's K, C as in cat, patrick.isagenics.com. kcpatrick.isogenics.com. Cleanse for Life.
Who are we to say? With all the planets and all the galaxies and all the solar systems, we're the only intelligent life form? We can't. An out-of-this-world experience here on Earth. Your eyes will be open to an exciting lineup of speakers, exhibitors, and copious aha moments. Experiencers, UFOs, extraterrestrials. It's all coming. Alien Cosmic Expo, June 24th to 26th at the Best Western Plus Brant Park Inn. Tickets at aliencosmicexpo.com.
And aloha, everybody. Welcome back to Aquarian Radio, aquarianradio.com. And we are in the middle of an incredible discussion. And our panelists and co-hosts include myself, Janet Kerlison, Karen Christine Patrick, what are you, John Polk, Reverend John Polk, and Robert John West. And we're in it, and we have, let's see, it's 3:17 my time, so we have less than 45 minutes, about 40 minutes. And who's got a burning share here? Something that
I do. I do.
Okay. Raise your hand. Okay, we see Karen's hand. Go for it.
I was like that in school, too. I was voted the student most likely to ask the most questions. But, yeah, here we go. No, I was really interested in your encounter with the alien on your deck, as well as the alien following you around at the card game. Do you feel like it's the same type of being or even the same being? And did you have any, after the people told you what they saw, did you have any sense of that you kind of felt it or you realized it was with you? I'm real curious about it. Did you get, as you have been getting more information, like a name or anything with this being?
No communication like that. Can you be a little more specific? Can you ask the question again? Sorry about that.
You had the alien on your deck, which I would be very mortified as well. Even though I'm very ET ready to meet them, I'm also a lady, and at some man of any kind was standing on my deck in the middle of the night, I think I'd be pretty nervous about it. So I was just wondering if you had any telepathic impressions and messages or anything in that encounter, and then anything during the card game experience or after, because I have a very visceral experience with several of my guides. I don't think I'd be here without them, because I have had very friendless seasons in my life, and if I didn't have my guides, I don't even know where I would be. I wouldn't be alive, I know that. I was just wondering if you've had a guide experience where you've had telepathic contact or anything like that.
Well, I haven't, nothing telepathic. However, we created how they guide me. I can't explain how they guide me, but I get all of my messages that way. There's no such thing as coincidence. So there are just hundreds of things that just fall right into place. It's always given me answers. I don't have any telepathic abilities or anything like that.
So like a synchronicities where things are very unlikely to line up. I've had an entire week of those, by the way. Synchronicities, and I don't. Yeah, that's what we call them. Yeah.
Remember the one this week? I'm going to tell everybody real quick. I'll just interject you. Sorry. I called Karen, and she answered the phone and went, yeah. And then the phone, it was dead. And I called right back, and Brett answered the phone. And I said, and I was really confused, like, is Karen there? And then she comes up and she goes, yeah. And we were in a time loop. Because I said, Karen, did you just answer the phone and say yeah? She says, no. I had to walk over the phone. Brett answered the phone. I said, I heard you saying yeah. Just an exact same tone.
I have another exciting story for you.
Are we time traveling here? So I think they're trying to tell us something. Yeah. Okay, that's your story. I'm sorry. I just had to. You reminded me of that. I had to interrupt. Yeah. Go ahead. Somebody else.
In the video, Rob had alluded to the fact that there was a treaty done by our U.S. president at a certain time with a number of different factions of aliens. What that story was, Rob, it's actually called the Greada Treaty, which is Greada, the Greada Treaty. It's an acronym for something, and I can't exactly remember what it stands for. But what the story was is that Dwight D. Eisenhower went out to Edwards Air Force Base out in California in 1954. Actually, he was supposedly on vacation, and then he gives everybody, he's got Secret Service people surrounding him at all times, and he gives them the excuse that he's got to break away for an emergency dental procedure, which sounds like a lie in the first place. So he goes to Edwards Air Force Base with him and some military leaders and some black government people also, and they meet with 4 different factions of extraterrestrials. One was the tall grays from the planet Betelgeuse. One was a faction of aliens that looked identical to human beings. You couldn't tell them apart from another human being. They looked human, but they weren't. Another one was the tall Nordics, and another one was the reptilians, and then it's rumored there was even a couple more factions of aliens, and that most of the factions of aliens were trying to get the United States and all of the big industrialized countries to disarm their nuclear weapons, to just completely get rid of their nuclear arsenal. And if they did so, then the ETs would bring us enlightenment, where love was a currency instead of money. And Dwight D. Eisenhower, he gets together with all the military leaders, and they decide to go with the tall grays from Betelgeuse, which wanted to give us more nuclear technology and give us technology on how to build UFOs for ourselves in exchange for abductees. And the thing with the abductees is that the abductees, the ETs actually had to give the government a list of the names of the abductees, so the government knew exactly who was being abducted, and they had to put the abductee back in the exact same location that they abducted them from. So, Rob, what else did you hear about that particular story?
Yeah, I remember that story. I'm not very good at remembering a lot of details, but give me a minute here to think. Yeah, it's been a while since I read that. But
that's okay. I got another question for you, or actually a comment that I want you to comment on. Talk about the guy with the black box, and talk about the you got a photo of an agent outside of your house. You want to talk about those things?
The alien that was outside of the home?
No, the agent. That you actually caught
agent.
somebody.
Yeah.
You got a photo of somebody spying on you or something.
Yeah, it's actually a photo from the video.
Oh, okay.
I started having helicopters fly over the home. Let's see. Yeah, this was before we went to Texas. So I was having helicopters fly over my home, and they would just shake the house. Military choppers. I forget what they call them. The Black Hawks. And they did this twice. So I'm like, I right away I could tell. I felt like I was like they're messing with me right away. That they want me to stop doing what I'm doing, because I did realize that they're trying to keep this a secret and keep this hidden from everybody. The UFOs. But I just got home from work one day. It was Saturday. I got home at 1:30 in the afternoon, and Wait, when I got home, I don't know what came over me, but I told my son, I said, go take a walk through the woods over there and see if there's police cars in that cul-de-sac. He said, all right. So he took off through the woods, and he come back. He said, yeah. He goes, there was 2 police cars over there, black ones. And as soon as he come down there, they saw him. And he said when they saw him, they had something up on the dash. They quick grabbed it off of the dash, put it down on the seat, and then they both took off. So he told me this, and in the meantime, I was watching these 2 guys, a little odd, out in front of my place fishing. My son told me that they've been out there since this morning, and it's like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I had a friend over. We're just sitting there, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and I'm watching them. I'm like, wow, nobody ever fishes in these holes in front of all of our homes on this lake more than an hour. They'll move to the next hole, and they just work their way around the lake. So I was seeing this as very odd. So I grabbed my camera at about 3:30, and I videotaped them. And you could tell that they weren't fishing. Their sunglasses, they just didn't look like fishermen. You could, when you're fishing, you're fishing. So I videotaped them. I thought it was very odd, so I threw it on YouTube because I felt like that. I just felt like doing it. The very next day, they were back there. They were there for a total of 6.5 hours. They didn't leave till 6:30 that night. You could see where they're positioned right there. That's how they were positioned the whole 6.5 hours. The very next day, they came there for 4.5, 5 hours. Same spot, fished right there. I have a video to that one too that I threw on YouTube. But I think they were just trying to put the scare into me. They were just watching me. I noticed it. And it didn't stop me. So I knew I was being watched, not only from the UFOs, but from them too. And it was a little bit of a scary feeling, but I guess all in all, I just didn't care. I keep feeling compelled to do my job. What I was sent here to do, I guess is how I feel about it. I hope that answered your question.
Do you think
if
you hadn't watched movies about and YouTube's about Men in Black that you would have been afraid of people fishing? Because it's like I just decide I'm in my own little world, right? And I don't pay attention to all that stuff. And it's almost like when I walk through the world invincible, I am invincible. Because I don't get into fear. It's the fear factor that creates, and that's what this research has been showing when we go into fear, we create that which we fear.
Yep.
So my verbiage is, or my story that I've been told by my guides and extraterrestrials or whoever is in contact with me, is that they're watching over and they're protecting me, and they're not going to let anything happen to me. And I'm 62. I've been going through my whole life, and there's so many times I should be dead. But I'm here, and nothing really bad's happened to me, and I've escaped some really weird, strange, situations where it could have gone, totally south, and I wouldn't be here. But there's something magical happening with these beings, and perhaps that's why they're coming to see you, because you do have these magical beings that are surrounding you and taking care of you, making sure nothing happens.
Yeah,
that's just a lot I'm getting from all this.
I'm sorry?
That's just a thought that I'm getting from all this conversation we're having. That you're totally protected.
Absolutely. Every time I'm sorry?
Your friends saw whoever's protecting you.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm really, I don't quite understand totally yet why I was able to see them protecting me, why I was able to see all this stuff. I mean, and then I've been attacked from helicopters, hit with a particle beam one time, and they keep trying to get at me, but I'm glad I've seen what I've seen, because that gives me the confidence to keep going on. They don't scare me. I do get scared, however, sometimes, but I do feel very well protected.
Did I hear you right? Did you say you got hit by a particle beam?
Yeah, I was in my semi. I was hauling loads of potatoes from Plainfield, Wisconsin, down to Beloit and Frito-Lay every day. It was a 3-hour ride down and a 2-hour ride back up. 3 hours on the way down because we'd hauled close to 90,000 pounds, and we couldn't take the interstate down from Portage, Wisconsin, down to Beloit. We had to take the back roads. And one of these back roads took us on 151 right through Madison, and we had to go past the Madison airport. I got stopped at a red light at the top of the hill, which doesn't happen too often, but I don't think nothing of it. I took off, and there's a chunk of woods on the right-hand side, and then there's a long field, and then there's the airport. I got into 7th gear. As soon as I hit the edge of that woods, and I didn't even see this chopper. It had, I'm not sure what kind of chopper. It was a black military chopper. But I'm in my semi. As soon as I got right to the edge of the woods, they come right in front of me. They were no more than 70 feet right in front of me. If I'd have been just a second and a half sooner, and a semi and a half higher, I'd have knocked them right out of the air. But as they cut in front of me, I quick jumped up on my steering wheel. This is 10:30 in the morning, or during a weekday. There's traffic all around. I couldn't believe they did this. But I as soon as I seen it out of the right corner of my eye, coming from the right side, I leaned forward, and the pilot's looking right at me. We're just eye to eye, and then right away, right when they got just about right in front of me, there's side doors open, and there's this guy strapped in. He's all in black, the black glasses, and there's a black box which looked like an old-time camera right in front of him, and his elbows are both upright to on both of his sides, holding this thing. And they just zipped right past me, and I cussed like, what in the hell? Actually, I used the F word, but I couldn't believe it, and I'm kind of yelling like, you got to be kidding me! And right in front of all this traffic, and I got down a little bit, and I was able to see him in my mirror on the driver's side, and they spun around to where the pilot was watching me, and they just hovered there in that field as I took another mile to get down by the airport, maybe another quarter mile to go around the corners. And they watched me the whole way. And once I was almost ready to not see them in my mirror anymore, as I was turning around the corner, they took off back towards Fort McCoy direction. However, I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what in the heck just happened? Were they trying to scare me? What the heck was this thing they were pointing at me? I'm just my adrenaline's just going. I get another hour down, I'm almost down to Boyd, and I'm just really tired, and I shouldn't have been. I just got loaded and was on my way down, but I was really exhausted, so I pulled into the gas station, got a coffee, and I got another 20 miles to go, and by the time I got into Boyd, I'm just like, wow, I'm just tired. So I got to Boyd, I checked in at the guard, security shack, I switched trailers, I come back out and I pull a block away in the Alcoa parking lot, and I laid down. I must have slept 4 hours. I got back up. I drove up to Portage, which is about an hour and a half away, and I needed to get home to my kids, but there was an adult there, which was okay. But I just could not stay awake, and I struggled for the next 3 weeks, especially that first week, just trying to stay awake. I was sleeping all the time. But I'm trying to work, and I knew something was wrong. Something was not right. So I called up a friend of mine in Idaho. I explained it to him. I explained the box that he was holding, and right away he said, Tesla technology. I said, what in the hell is that? He goes, I'll send you some links. So he sent me some links, and I did some searching for a while, and reading through it, I was like, wow, particle beam? What the? Are you kidding me? It was just too obvious. They hit me with a particle beam. I don't know if they were what their intentions were, but I survived it.
Wow!
And it made me even madder. It made me even madder. It gave me more of a drive to just keep doing what I'm doing and trying to wake up people. I spend more time trying to wake people up and getting good at it when I'm around them, small groups of people. I'm pretty good at it at times, but I have to be right there with them. And there's a lot of people talking to me up here in my area and everywhere else. They're calling me and just telling me their stories and asking questions, and it's awesome. I visioned this 3-4 years ago. I wasn't sure, but it's actually happening now. All my friends, all my old friends, other people. It's turning out to be quite amazing so far. We got a ways to go yet.
We have a saying in psychology. Your intentions are made manifest by your results. So maybe on some level, this catalyst, you required this catalyst for you to do this work to wake up people, and that was this particle beam that hit you. And now that you have this catalyst, which has propelled you to be, passionate about this, waking people up. Because I think there's somebody that wants us to wake up, right? So if it's too easy to just go to work and eat McDonald's, we need some stimulation sometimes. Humanity just sits there, and if they're too comfortable, they just, watch television and eat too much food. So sometimes you need these things that shake you up and say, well, here's your mission. Don't you remember you agreed to do this before you came into the physical, and now you're not doing your job, so we're going to send you something to wake you up. So you realize my life isn't about, driving the truck or this or that. This is the real purpose of my existence. And I always look at these things as very magical and mystical. There's times where their energy's different, and it's incompatible a lot of times to this 3D reality human avatar form that we've agreed to incarnate in and animate. But I just said, well, okay, I've seen this thing. It's very out of the box. I feel blessed and gifted. It's a gift that I've seen it, and now I'm in a different reality. Because this one here, like we were talking about earlier, with the impending presidential election, the economic system, 90% of us are in corporate economic slavery. Okay, I'm letting somebody else talk. Go ahead, somebody take over. All right, got a call coming in.
Hey, Rob. I was looking at the one picture on your video about the cloud, and I run into that all the time as well.
That structure in the cloud looks like a couple faces.
It did. It did. If you look up into the sky and you have a vivid imagination, you can see things like that all the time. But what a lot of people get lost with is that it's actually a cloaking device. And often when you see the shape of a human face or even just a face, whether it's an animal face or a face, that's black.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but anyway, often it's a cloaking device, like you said, for the craft. So what were you going to say?
What I see of this and what I understand of it is they cloak and they can make their own cloud cover, which you see that little bit of white around it. Then you can see that structure in there, and then those black orbs, which would, I guess you would look where you could kind of see like a face. Those black orbs are actually ships. You got the two to the right and the two to the left, but then the one on the left has got that structure underneath it. It's odd. You can definitely see some tubes and what looks like some kind of rectangle thing in the middle, and a little square black box on the back. I really don't know what it is, but yeah, they cloak. They've been in our skies for quite some time, and I just see them. They're always watching over us.
They are. They're always there. I will say that till the day I die. They're always there. They're always watching us. But we can't necessarily see them because they're cloaking themselves. I think that everybody owes it to themselves to go out and buy some of those goggles that you purchased yourself, the night vision goggles, or the ones that can look into infrared and ultraviolet spectrums of light. Something else I wanted to ask you about. In the beginning of your video, you mentioned an old friend of yours named Charlie, who talked about the Illuminati, explained to you the Illuminati, and didn't you say that he was actually a part of the Illuminati?
He told me, and his brother backed him up on it too. Charlie was 56. I think his brother was a little bit older. He used to be a multi-millionaire. He said that he gave everything up. He used to fly. He used to have a nice plane, and I guess he would fly some of these Illuminati members around, and that's where he learned, what was going on. And he didn't agree with it. He didn't like it. So he and a bunch of other people that I don't know all of his friends, but he more or less said that Black Mark. How did he say that? He had a lot of books. He had a lot of knowledge, and that's all he was doing was he was going around trying to wake people up. And after a year and a half working with him and hanging out with him and him teaching me, I had an open mind, so I was listening, and he proved to me quite a few things, which really, I think that's when it really opened my eyes up for the Illuminati part of it. Because for the next 14 years, for the next 7 years, I was talking to people about the Illuminati. I didn't know anything about UFOs. But he was a major part in my life. He was a great guy. I sometimes wonder who he was. Really, I'm not really sure. But
good point.
Yeah, he was something else. He made me feel really good. Back then I was drinking and not drinking a lot. I would go out on the weekends. I was just trying to have fun. I was in my early 20s. But like I said, I always had an open mind. I always could see things in a different light than most people, and I didn't understand that whole time. I just didn't understand things until I ran into him and he opened my eyes up. But yeah, he came out and had a couple of beers with me. Even he didn't drink, but it was just amazing. He was an amazing guy. I sure would like to know if he was who he actually really was. Sometimes I think to myself.
Oh yeah, he's probably Mr. French. Is that your real name, Mr. French? Yeah. Well, what do you think? No, it's not. But he warmed up to you and shared that information with you, and he might have done it at some risk, but apparently he didn't worry about it.
it was really weird too. The weirdest part about it, my time with him is when he seen. There was a day we were sitting there. It was right when we were in Gainesville, Georgia. He was a carpenter, and his idol was Jesus, and but he was a really good carpenter. We were putting roofs on the dorms at the college in Gainesville, and we'd go home. Me and him would go to the motel at lunchtime and watch CNN or whatever. He liked to keep up on what's going on in the world, so he could read it. He taught me how to read in between the lines and see the truth. But we were sitting there, and that's when that Gulf War very first started up. And he had told me a bunch of stuff, what was going on. He didn't agree with it. He told me it was all over oil and what have you. And I was like, yeah, I think I agree with you. But we're sitting there, and the ambassador to Iraq was on CNN Live. And there was two of the CNN guys on there. And the ambassador, he was mad. He was upset. He was talking, and he was talking about the this invasion coming and what have you, and he got really mad and he just blew up, and he said, "There's a big communication gap between you and the American people," and he was just getting ready to tell the truth. They cut off the live, they cut him off right away, turned in their chairs and changed the subject. He stomps his foot down and says, "See, I told you," and that lit me up. That's when I realized everything he'd been teaching me and telling me was true. And he saw that. At the end of the day, he let me go. He sent me on my way. I worked for him, but he sent me on my way, like he was done with me.
Maybe he did that for your own safety and protection. Maybe he thought that you all had gotten to a crossroads where if he took you any further, you could have been met with some peril. I don't know. That'd be my best guess.
My guess is he was meant to be in my life. He opened my eyes up. He taught me some things, got me going, and then as soon as he knew I was ready, he sent me back out there to, I guess, finish my path, and up into 2011, where everything fell into place for everything he told me and taught me back then. It all, that helped me a lot when I was having those experiences every day. If it wasn't for that, already having an understanding from what he taught me, it was just meant to be. I really feel like he was put here on purpose. He came into my life on purpose to do this. And I don't know, if it was, like I said, if it wasn't for him, I don't know what I would have done in 2011. Been probably too scared, not knowing or understanding, remembering what he taught me. It's interesting. I wish I could explain the story better, but that's one of my downfalls. I'm not a good speaker. I've never done this before.
You're doing fine. You're doing great.
Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great, Rob.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're loose.
These
you're loose.
aren't easy things to talk about. This is stuff we don't tell anybody. So we struggle with the language or how much to say, or it's difficult.
It was just he strikes me as a little odd. It just wasn't normal. It's like he was just meant. I don't know who he was. He called himself Charlie Brown. That was his name. It wasn't his real name.
Wow.
Charlie Brown. That's a good name.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie
If he didn't get his mail sent to him, it'd be Charlie Brown on there. Smart guy. Boy.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So, Karen, we haven't heard from you in a little while. We only have about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 10 minutes, yes.
Okay.
Karen,
what
would you like to say?
Oh, yeah, my 2 cents. As I was listening, particularly when he was talking about the plasma weapon, I basically like jogged my brain, and I wanted to pass on a website to people that talks about Nikola Tesla, the use of Nikola Tesla, what he discovered. So I'm just going to give that website real quick. It's human-resonance.org, O-R-G, /veil, like a bridal veil, veil.html. And you'll get to a page where there's a document you can download called Veil of Invisibility. It's a PDF file. And that's a great read to understand that when Nikola Tesla passed away, he was, of course, the unrecognized genius of the 20th century. And the reason why we don't know too much about him is so much of what he invented had to be put in, the government felt it had to be put in some kind of clandestine, database, and he died penniless, basically. And this story goes into this very deeply on this PDF. And this was some of what was developed. What John talked about earlier is that people need to know that there's some very exotic kinds of technology being used on us by our government, unfortunately. I also think that there's some helper technology, technology of the mind, technology of the human capacity, ET capacity connection that brings the more we can bring our frequency, our energy up and in a positive way, the more we can really resist a lot of this stuff.
I agree with that.
Some people can become under very heavy fire with it, so I don't want to say it's that easy, but I've had my own experiences, and I've used different, states of mind and consciousness and meditation to help me cope with it when it's happening to me. So, I feel like when that helicopter came after you and they zapped you or whatever, that they were trying to get you to have an accident, because you were driving. And somehow or another, you had already been fortified in your frequency, your personal frequency by your ET contact and learning so much. Because what your friend was doing was helping you recognize the patterns and to put the puzzle together. Most of our information is compartmentalized. It's in all kinds of pieces. And that, what a good teacher will do will show you the connections, and then you start to make them yourself. So it sounds like you had a human guide along those lines. My father was like that, too. I learned all about the Illuminati. I was quite young, and I freaked out. I couldn't handle it. So I put it out of my mind. And then, of course, like a lot of kids, as we get older, our parents get smarter, right? So I was like, Dad, Dad was on to something. So I went through that experience, too. I just wanted to share that website for further understanding of the Tesla technology, which had a lot of applications. And if we apply Tesla technology in a positive way, and many of our inventions in a positive way, the world could be transformed. So that's what we're hoping for, is to have all that stuff come out to the benefit of humanity. So that's my share, and I really enjoyed talking with you, Rob.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I agree with you. It's definitely right with the frequencies. I can't explain it too well, but with the frequencies and being at a higher vibration, it seems like we're going to resist some of these attacks, and everything that goes along with it, the mind control and what have you. That's kind of the conclusion I came to with it.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what that article was saying, that we create this harmony, resonant frequency, and so we find ourselves stating it in a negative way. If we rephrase that, we actually shift timelines, we shift consciousness, we create a new reality just by rephrasing it. And then it's like it's kind of like Nemo, right? It's like they're trying to get us into their reality. And everything's doom and gloom, and the sky is falling, and this is a negative thing, we're being attacked. But if we don't fall into that, because we're basically invincible on some level, and we don't fall into it, then it's like, we've shifted to this timeline, this reality, where, no, my reality is, something positive and an affirmation. So they've read this article. It's up on AquarianRadio.com, and we've been discussing this issue on Aquarian Radio with a bunch of different researchers, and we're it. The buck stops here. We make it. We are creating it. Wake up in the dream. Wake up and realize that we create our own reality. We figure out which timeline or multiverse or universe we're focusing our consciousness. We're actually sitting there in source simultaneously while we are these avatars in human form, And we're making choices about where we are in every moment in the continuum. And everything is a function of the now. There is no the past or the truth. If you have 100 people talking about an incident that they all shared in the past, let's just say a family of 20 people get together at a family reunion, and you share an incident from the past, you're going to have 20 different variations on the same incident that they all shared, because it's all these layers of thoughts and interpretation and filtering has gone over top of it, and there is no thing as the truth or the past. Anyway, back to somebody else. We only have 6 minutes. John, final words, and then we'll give the last words to Rob.
Okay. Once again, going back to Rob's video, everybody, you gotta check out his video. It's so good. I lost my place. Darn it. Oh, here we go. Rob, you got this information from some source. I'm not exactly remembering what the source was, but that there's a war going on in outer space over what to do with us. And I received that information a few years ago through a download, through being a medium. And I'm starting to hear it everywhere. And it even mirrors stories in biblical texts, including the Bible, that, there's going to be a war between the light and the dark. And I was curious, where did you get that information from?
When the UFOs were all hovering around my home, I thought those rainbow stars were satellites. I started seeing them rainbow stars come in like 1993, 1994. I just seen more and more of them showing up. I didn't see them moving or anything. I saw one south when I was in Lakeland, Florida. It was huge, right above probably Miami area. It was huge. But I thought it was I wasn't sure. I thought they were satellites, the sun shining off of their solar panels. But whatever. But I learned later that the satellites were those white objects that go straight through the air, take about 4, 5, 6 minutes to go through. So that's when I started taking a picture of these rainbow stars, what have you. It's my research, but it got me researching, and then I caught something on YouTube. It said that there were some ships coming in. There was a fleet of ships coming in, and it showed some pictures of them, and I was like, wow! And it talked about this war that's going on. That's what I got from. So I immediately grabbed my camera and I got to thinking to myself, how can I catch these things, or what's going on out there? So I started videotaping around the moon. And I'd get the moon in focus. I couldn't see anything, but then almost right away, when I got the moon out of focus, and I was seeing objects, stars hovering around it, and they would sit there in place, and they wouldn't move. And then I'd see things coming off of the moon, and I was videotaping it at the time too. Things were coming off of the moon and flying around it, and there wasn't any bugs. This was in the fall, and I was videotaping this stuff. And then all of a sudden, then the stars would take off, and they'd go up and around the moon. So I'm like, "Oh, you got it. There is a war going on out there."
All right.
And so I got some videos of it. Some people are trying to tell me they're bugs. MUFON told me it were bugs. I sent them a video. I said, "No, they ain't." I said, "Look at them come off the moon." I said, look at these stars that are hovering here for 10, 15 minutes, and then they take off. But they argue with me, but I just stuck to it. I said, there is a war going on. And then the more information, the more I was learning, the more I was waking up to it. The pieces of the puzzle were falling together. Things were being thrown at me left and right. I got like a crash course on everything. It was really fast, I guess you could say. Because after meeting a lot of you guys out there, you guys have been doing this for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I'm just 2011. I'm just a truck driver. I'm trying to take care of my kids. Yeah, I got an open mind. I've had some experiences and some memories, and I'm looking at everything different than everyone else is. I was scratching my head about that all the time.
Rob,
and then I got slammed.
I hate to interrupt you, but Rob, we're out of time.
Oh,
Aww.
We'll do this again. It's been fun. We will. We will have you back. We have lots of shows that we do here on the Aquarium Radio Network, and we'll have you back for more discussion and panels. And I want everybody to say thank you, Rob. John, Karen, say goodbye to Rob. And thank you so much for coming on. We're going to be going off the air in 37 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, aloha, love and blessings. And we'll catch you on the other side, on the flip side, in another time and space. Aloha.
North Pole Hotline.
Help! My in-laws are hosting Thanksgiving, and we're bringing the dressing.
You mean stuffing?
No, dressing. I need cute outfits for everyone.
Get to Old Navy.
Old Navy?
Yep, Old Navy's kicking off the holidays with stylish denim, velvet tops, the season's best dresses, and 40% off your entire purchase now through Tuesday.
40% off? We'll be stuffing our shopping bags full.
And don't forget colorful sweaters and amazing outerwear, too. You can even buy online and pick up in store for free.
Ooh, I love an all-you-can-wear buffet.
Holiday your heart out at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Valid 11/18 to 11/20. Exclusions apply. See stores for details.